I'm Margaret Ann Windsor, and I was kidnapped in 41, age 2, brought to Moulton, Alabama, and given another name of a twin. Actually, Peggy and Carl had been murdered by their mother. She was unwed, and they were about a year older than me. The thing is, Carl was murdered about a month after birth. There was never an autopsy. He was just buried out. They lived way out in the country, uh, and a casket that was just made out of wood for him. So Peggy was killed about 1 week, 2 weeks before I was dropped off there and given my name stolen. And so this tells you her murder was planned. I guess that Lina was going to keep her. I don't know, but the family covered it up because Lina would have gotten the gas chamber in Alabama at the time, and they would have knowledge of the murder of Carl, and then they had to have helped in the murder of Peggy. And then what happened to me? Uh, so that's a little background. My father's Edward VIII. He never married Wallace Simpson. He was married to my mom, who was Queen of England in 36. And it was an assassination, a takedown of my father with character assassination. And today, with so many people knowing and did know back then, Elizabeth, none of those who really have the attention of the public could have told the truth at any time. They knew who my mother is, that Wallace Simpson married a double. There was no Duke and Duchess of Windsor. It was illegal. It was a takedown of my dad. So that the monarch, George VI installed, went along with the Illuminati. My father refused to, so they took him down and then kidnapped me. And I am the legal heir due to papers that were signed that were legal. So the day I was born, I'm Victoria II, heir to the British Crown, legal. So I'm going to put this up. I've put quite a few up, and I realize that I've lived it, and I'm not feeling all that great. Give me a little credit. I don't have anything but this itty-bitty phone, and I realize the photography is not very good, but then I don't look that good anymore either. Not just my age, I'm tired. But I wanted to put this up also. I mentioned the Bloomingdale tapes when I meant the Watergate tapes back on one of the videos I just put up about Henry Kissinger. He was on the subpoenaed by the Watergate. Kissinger was. He was on with Nixon, and he was Secretary of State and Defense. They're all Illuminati. That's now then. It's the United Nations is who the Illuminati is up in New York City, along with the Rockefeller headquarters, who controlled their Illuminati, and they control everything right now. So, but what I wanted to put up, I was in a campaign I was writing a book about, and in case you're just picking up on this one, some background, you're not lost totally. And I wrote a book, and medical malpractice book. It was about mind control and the Tesla files that were stolen, how you can cure an illness or create it or program people or mass now people to commit murders or do whatever the programmers want them to do. One of the things I want to get back to, I didn't know about my kidnapping till after I was flown out to Larry Flint's Hustler magazine in '83 to replace. Well, the reason I got in that was Larry McDonald, one of the doctors, the U.S. congressman I wrote about, supposedly went down in the KAL August 31st of '83. And the problem with it is the pilot veered into Russian airspace 10 miles in, and they shot him down. 260 went down. Supposedly this doctor went down, Larry McDonald. And then I've heard he didn't. But anyway, Nixon was taken off that flight. He was on it just prior to takeoff. So they knew it was going down. Did they take Larry McDonald or never even put him on there? I don't know. Was the takedown to get rid of his name and all that was going on? Yes. Now, I'm in the campaign, and Larry Flint was shot in Lawrenceville, Georgia by a programmed shooter. I knew at the time I was doing the book that it was mind control. It fit in the patterns. I never met Mr. Flint until I was flown out there in '83 in this campaign. And what I want to get here is the Watergate tapes with Henry Kissinger were subpoenaed in '72. I started doing the medical malpractice book about mind control use and as a weapon and all that. '76. Flint shot in '78. A letter from the FBI, two of them. One was dated June the 23rd, '79. And I mean, it's hell all through this to me and my kids. And April Fool Day, I was almost killed. I don't know how I lived. I'm illegally taken across the state line to Alabama, where I end up working for Fred Simpson, the district attorney there. That's when John Lennon was shot and killed by Mark David Chapman, November of '80. And let me say, the wrestler, oh God, don't let me forget his name. He was Minnesota, Jesse Ventura. He was the governor of Minnesota 2 terms. He did mention this after I did. How he got his information, I don't know. It was done in patterns, obviously, if you've listened to me at some of the names, Mark David Chapman, for instance, what happened there. But I'm getting off on this now. I really want to just put this up. The Watergate tapes, I meant to say Watergate tapes that were subpoenaed, and I said Bloomingdale tapes, and I can't go back and correct that now. It was a few tapes back. Anyway, the Bloomingdale, getting back to this, Kissinger was on the Watergate tapes with 18-minute and a half-minute gap. That's where they had me on the table that I've described just prior now and over the years. Done back in 1972, and I remember what they just done to me a few days before. Now they've given me rohypnol, I assume's what it was, and I've described this, so I won't go in again. On the tapes is Henry Kissinger, and I knew everything that was going on. I just couldn't move. And there's about six doctors right there where you can see them, because I'm not sure I could even move my head. Could have moved my head, because I remember looking. I'm not going to name this doctor. God help me, he's still living a good life. His son's a doctor there in Atlanta. Nothing's been done to him. During this whole thing, I was told by the law enforcement that he was under investigation. Well, they've never done anything about it. He's still in practice if he's alive. Today, I checked a couple of years ago or a year ago, and he's still in practice, and his son is in practice. So they've lived good. Now, that's on the Watergate tapes to lobotomize me. Henry Kissinger's on them. That's why the Watergate tapes were sliced, and they had been subpoenaed. Now, anyway, I'm trying to explain the Watergate tapes. I meant to say that. Now I want to get to the Bloomingdale tapes, since I did say that. Back just before starting to do the book in '76, I was still living at my home, still had my home. And there was something that happened near there, and I can't go back now. Could Google it. I don't know. But it was part of me finding out, and later I'm flown out to Flint's, and later Playboy Hugh Hefner comes into, I contacted one of his attorneys. I contacted one of his staff that's on the, like Playboy magazine. You open it, and it's part of his staff. Kretschner, I think. What was his name? Arthur Kretschner. Contacted him, and he told me, but by that time I lived at Moonraker apartment, so I had contact with him through then, but he told me that he had turned the information over that I'd sent him at that time to their attorneys, corporate attorneys, and they were going to see what they could do. Well, it never was done, and some other things happened I've put up, and so I'm going to leave that and get back to this, though. There was, at the Holiday Inn, God, what was the name of the highway that led into 41, and I think it becomes Delk Road, where I used to live in Moonraker when I'm doing this book in 78. Anyway, I think that's where it was. At the Holiday Inn is where a Playboy, I don't know, Bunny was killed. It was a big thing over it. And I'm putting this up, I can't remember her name, but anyway, later when I'm flown out to Larry Flint's, I was aware of something about the well, maybe I shouldn't even start telling this. Something about the Bloomingdale tapes, yeah. I'm not going to say anything else here. It's one of the Bloomingdale tapes were done and stolen, I assume. It involved Alfred Bloomingdale and his wife, close friends of Ronald Reagan. They actually visited and stayed in the White House, and Nancy was close friends of the wife, and she actually lived there for a time. Now, this is getting into the bohemian clubs and things that the Bloomingdales, etc., are involved in that would blow your mind if you heard it. So that's why they killed people who had the Bloomingdale tapes. After I left Mr. Flint's in 83, he furnished me a car when I was in the campaign, and I was just stripped down to nothing, no funds, no etc. Anyway, I kept watched and I heard about the Bloomingdale tapes. The man that had them was killed and his body found up in the hills somewhere. And this was on TV. Then it had Larry Flint, and this is where I had to sit in the office with Mr. Flint in his home. He had the tapes, had bought them, I guess, and they actually went in and tried to kill him and tried to get the tapes. Watergate tape. I'm saying Watergate. Excuse me. Well, the Bloomingdale tapes, excuse me, of Alfred Bloomingdale and the Bohemian Club. And I'm not going to go any further. Maybe it'll be shown someday, but what they were doing and into, wow. And this involved Playboy, Hugh Hefner wasn't a part of this, but it's something, well, just Playboy Bunny. This gets into some of that. So I'll just stop there because I don't know whatever happened to the Bloomingdale tapes. I don't think they got them from Larry Flint, the person did. But anyway, did I say Bloomingdale that time? Yeah, rather than the Watergate tapes is where they had me going to kill me. And by the way, Mr. Flint, when I walked in 1st October of 83, he had flown me out there, and I'd never met him, but I knew his shooting was of a programmed shooter in mind control, and here I'm writing about it. I was taken to his home, spent the night, and then one other night on election, I was flown back out there at Mr. Flint's home. Mr. Flint met me. I went in, and he said, "You don't have to tell me anything about yourself. I already know everything there is to know," which kind of shocked me. I just met him. He mentioned the fact that he said, "I know they were going to send you back a vegetable," which is more than once they did that. The Watergate tapes with Henry Kissinger, who just attended the funeral along with Walker Bush, the president, former president, and Clinton's and Obama. They're all part of the Illuminati. All of them have been, really. But here you got Ronald Reagan, the the Bloomingdale tapes. And if I'm skipping around, that's the reason I'm going to stop here and get off for the day or whatever. I'll probably be off a couple of days anyway, at least. But I'm going to go now to 1982, when I'd almost been killed again, April Fool Day of 80. And there's records of that. And I'm sure there must be of the other. Um, I have to stop. It's just too much. Really, and what's the use? Sometimes I start putting it up as a matter of record, and I'm probably talking into an empty phone here because I think I ran out of time sometime back a few minutes ago. Now I've forgotten my train of thought. When I took the book in '82, after all that, April Fool Day and almost being killed again. Now, I have no money. I take all this to D.C., LaSalle Street to Sam Donaldson, boxes of evidence and everything. Letter from the feds, the book, letters of rejection where it was almost taken, etc. Remember, I had not at that time found out my real name. They say subconsciously I've always known. Anyway, that was in late '83 I found out. So this is '82. I took it to the White House mailroom, and I'm sure I'm not going up now. I didn't have much space left anyway. But I'll keep on going to see. And that's where you have to log in whatever you're leaving for the president. And Michael Reagan, his adopted stepson, with that his name on the lapel, came, and I had a letter from the FBI sealed on the front of it so it would get their attention. Well, maybe I shouldn't have done that either, but it seemed like I shouldn't have done this and this and this, or I should have done that when it shouldn't have been done to me and my family. Anyway, I left it, and I'm going to skip the horrors up there during that time period, like I went up there about the John Hinckley murder and what happened to me then. I mean, John Hinckley shot Reagan the night after his family, who were friends of the Bushes, had dinner, and here you got Hinckley Jr. shooting Ronald Reagan, and Hinckley was programmed. So it's the happenings what did to me up there in D.C. Wrong place for the Queen of England to go unless you're a fake and a phony. Then you get the royal treatment. When I left, there's another story. I was told, lady, you should put, well, the safety deposit box I had was emptied, so what the heck. But now then somebody told me, a lady did, she said, you should put that away in the safety deposit box. Well, you could say I was run out of Washington. I had no money, nothing. I'm walking. And what happened to me that culminated, two Irish guys were involved in this, and they made statements about they were told to do it and they were glad to. Okay, I'm going to skip to what happened in Thomaston, Georgia, in the National Forest there. My book, what was done to me, is so hideous, but everything was taken off of me that I was carrying in my hand all this way, walking and hoping I didn't get killed trying to get back to Atlanta. Where else am I supposed to go? This is not going up, I know. I get there in Lawrenceville, Georgia, in Thomaston. What happened? They took me to Lawrenceville, where Larry Flint was shot, and the very doctor that saw him was brought in to see me, and he had retired. Now, I'm not going to say what happened. I've put it up here. When I tried to get money out of my, as far as I knew, ex-husband, I'd divorced him. There was a divorce agreement. I simply, for the first time, tried to get a little money, walked to the Cobb County Police Department, tried to get it enforced so I could be off the street and have just a room. And you should know what everybody allowed and stood by and helped. They